good stepping stone for like beginner gardening. The first one of those stepstone to beginner gardening type plants is bush beans. Now, I know a lot of my family, and even whenever I was growing up, we grew pole beans, so we would plant pinto bean seeds and they would create green beans on vines. These aren't really vines. They will grow in a relatively low bush. They will put out a set number of beans and then that's it. They die back and they're done. The good thing about beans though is that they will, they're called nitrogen fixing crops. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to put a little bit of nitrogen into that soil, which means that whenever you're ready to plant your other cooler weather crops, you have some soil that's been boosted a bit with some natural fertilizer, which is always good. So bush beans, this one is red swan bush, as you can see. It has a really lovely red pod. The beans are even, they're kind of like a brownish, tannish type red. Let's see if I can hold that correctly for you to see. So as you see there, there's many different types of bush beans. My favorite one so far has been the dragon tongue bean. I did not bring the package out because I planted them all yesterday. Another pretty easy, you know, doesn't require a whole lot of maintenance, grows pretty quickly and loves hot weather, okra. Pretty much any type of okra that you plant is going to do fantastic whenever it is this hot. This one is Hill Country Red. There's Alabama varieties. There's David Star or something like that. Clemson Spineless. There's all different types of okra. Plant it now and you will be harvesting in about 60 days. So it's the middle of July, so September you can make some gumbo. And then I have two more easy ones that don't require a whole lot of super maintenance or a whole lot of special fertilizer or anything. And the first one of those is zucchini or other types of summer squash. Now you will have to watch out for pests. There are squash bugs and there are squash vine borers. But overall, these plants grow incredibly fast. You're looking at 55 days. So September, you'll have fresh zucchini, fresh squash right off the vine, ready to eat. And if you do encounter those pests, there are natural ways to take care of them so you don't have to worry about putting icky chemicals on your plants. And then the last, relatively low maintenance, semi-low, pretty low maintenance crop that you can go ahead and start now in order to be harvesting within a few weeks, basil. Any basil that you can find, go ahead and plant it. Get it growing. I have, I don't know, like 9 kinds of basil growing. You can make tea with it. You can season literally everything with it. You can make salads. You can use it on sandwiches. I mean, the options for basil are endless. And then if you still have way too much left over at the end of the season, you can dehydrate it, grind it up a little bit into like basil flakes. You can also chop it up and freeze it. You can freeze it in olive oil ice cubes to use for Italian food later. Definitely a must-have in the garden. And it loves tomatoes. It grows well with peppers. And it does help repel some pests. And then we have a couple more that are pretty easy but might require a little bit of fertilizer and then a little bit of pest prevention. So we have collard greens. Every southerner knows about collard greens, okay? There are different kinds. This one is variegated, so it will be green and white. There's blue collard greens, there's green collard greens, there's purple collard greens. There's all kinds. It loves the heat, doesn't mind the heat at all. What it does mind is the cabbage looper moth. So there's some things that you can do to prevent the moth from eating it up, but it's easy to grow. It loves the heat and tastes delicious. Another one that you can go ahead and start now, and if you're maybe along the coast, it might perennialize for you, is Swiss chard. And this is rainbow chard, which is still Swiss chard, just different colors. So you can throw this in, and I have some growing over here. It will sprout. It grows moderately quickly, so whenever your other stuff is really just getting started, you'll be ready to eat some of these greens. And then the last one is going to take the longest to get from seed to food stage, but it looks very beautiful growing in the garden, and it is fantastic to use in stir fries. You can even use the leaves in your stir fries as well, and that is early sprouting broccoli. This variety that I planted happens to be purple, but you don't have to get purple. It's just fun. So all of these, like I said, you just put the seed in based on the depth of the package directions, and most packages are going to tell you, and water it really well. If it requires full sun, maybe right now while we're still in the middle of Satan's sweaty armpit, 106, maybe partial shade, but just go ahead and follow whatever the planting directions on the packet says. All of those options are going to put food on your table, food in your belly, and you're going to be growing food pretty easily. There are some other things that you can start seeds for now, inside, and transplant later whenever it finally, think about it with me, cools down. I can imagine it now. I'm underneath a shade cloth to film because it's so hot. The sun is literally like I'm in an oven turning into a chocolate chip cookie. It's ridiculous. So I'm underneath the shade cloth, just imagining the cooler weather, dreaming of October. So now we can go over some of the different things that you can start seeds for. Now, I am a bit of a hot mess, so I had this organized and then I dropped them because that's how I roll. So I'm going to go through these as best as I can. Keep in mind that we might revisit some crop types because I'm a klutz. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is leafy green type things, and I see them right here. Okay, I see the mess I made. Here we go. Okay, alright. So, it's my goal. My ultimate goal is to grow 90% of the food that we eat. I understand that where I live, I'm not going to be able to grow everything. Like, I don't think raspberries do well here. I could be wrong. But I also think that there are some things obviously are going to do well in a cooler climate that aren't going to do well here. Those things I'll still have to continue to buy, and that's okay. But everything else I want to try to grow on my own. And the fall garden, fall/winter, since our winters are mild here, I'm going to set that down anywhere. The fall garden is such a great way to grow so much food for your family, to stock your freezer, stock your pantry, do some canning with, dehydrate for smoothies, for juices, whatever. So the first thing we're going to talk about is leafy greens. Not to be confused with the collard greens, because those are direct sow right outside. These get started inside because they don't like to get too hot. So we'll move them out whenever it's a little bit cooler. We want them to be established before it might freeze. But we don't want to put them out here whenever it's so hot they just bolt right out and go right to seed. So some things that you can start seeds for: spinach, arugula, kale, mustard greens. This is a type of cabbage called Nero de Toscana, but it looks like a kale to me. I think the nickname for this is dinosaur kale. There's also bok choy, and baby bok choy. Some of the Chinese greens, those can also be started right now and then moved out whenever it cools down. And then next we have lettuces. I apparently planted a lot of lettuces. Okay, so you can go ahead and start all of your lettuces at the same time you start all this other stuff. It might go ahead and leaf up a little bit earlier. Keep it indoors as long as you can. You may have to up pot it into a larger pot in the interim, but you don't want to put it outside, especially in the direct sun, whenever it is consistently above 90 degrees, I would say, for most of these lettuces. And I have several different kinds here. I have leafy head lettuces, I had romaine type lettuces, a green romaine type, and then I have some like a speckly purple and green type lettuce, a butter crunch, you know, another leafy type, and then a red lettuce, and then I have some like smaller individual sized lettuce heads here that I went ahead and I started seeds for. So you're going to go ahead and start those as well. And then you can also start your broccoli, so your cabbages, your Brussels sprouts, things like that. There's also kohlrabi, this cool alien looking plant. It's kind of like a broccoli, but you eat this bulby part right here, and you can pickle it, you can ferment it, you can roast it, sort of like you would make fries with it. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but it is very nutritious, and it's a really interesting looking plant to grow. So like I said, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, thought that was upside down, and broccoli. Root vegetables can be started, I think a lot of those get started in September, so the root vegetables include things like turnips, rutabagas, radishes, carrots, and beets, and there will be a future video going over how to plant those seeds and get those started. But thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions about gardening in Satan's sweaty armpit, please reach out to me. If you liked what you saw in this video today, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell doodad wherever it is on the screen. And also be sure to follow me on my other social media accounts, because sometimes I do have other dorky short videos to see. Thank you so much for joining me. All of the information about this stuff will be in the description box below, not for low. English is hard. Until next time, you guys try to stay cool out there. Have a wonderful week.